Here they come.
What are we gonna do?
We'll bring hell down from on high.
Apple TV Plus has been around since 2019. It has debuted some very interesting television programming like See, but the streaming service hasn't had the big feature that has brought in tons of subscribers. Unlike Netflix, who had the time and years to build its subscriber base and its ability to produce original award-winning programming like Roma and The Irishman in both the television and film front, Apple TV Plus and other new streaming services have had to fight it out to acquire as much interesting and diverse content as possible to catch up. While the COVID delays have affected more niche services like Disney Plus and HBO Max in terms of their ability to acquire new programming, this mostly being from both forms and ability to acquire anything that's too off-brand, from film festivals or films that are now in need of new distribution during the COVID pandemic. Add on to the fact many of them have had to delay their original television programming, such as Falcon and the Winter Soldier, leaving their subscriber counts in a steady decline, which is probably viewed by their studios as failing to acquire all the new streaming audiences that are now thirsting for content to watch. Apple TV Plus, like Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime, have the ability to grab as much diverse content as possible right now because of their diverse platforms. Apple TV, being one of the outlier of the four because they are new to the game, needed to make a big splash to capitalize on as many new streamers as possible to get that subscriber number up to where it could see profitability in a few years. How much of a splash is this? About $70 million worth, and a whole lot of America's favorite big screen face. This is Greyhound, a World War II action experience that delivers what it hopes is some big screen adventure right in your living room. Well, does actor and screenwriter Tom Hanks work to bring that to us? Or did Apple spend $70 million only to flush it down the drain into extinction? I am Joe Flaherty, and this is my review for Greyhound. Yeah, the bus system is a little shaky, but the snacks given in coach are, I'm just kidding with you. Here we go. Based on the novel The Good Shepherd by C.S. Forester, it was adapted by Tom Hanks as the film Greyhound. Tom Hanks, a known World War II buff and fellow producer with Steven Spielberg on HBO's World War II miniseries, such as Pacific and Band of Brothers. Hanks wanted to make an authentic World War II naval experience on the Battle of the Atlantic, a rarely covered aspect of the war, unless it's from the perspective of the submarine warfare. The film, which had about a $50 million budget, was directed by Aaron Schneider of Get Low fame, coming out of his comfort zone to make a film whom he has said is practically almost always CGI enhanced in every frame, and truly it is. In an article from Insider, Schneider pointed out that most of the water you see in the film and action is almost all CGI, every single drop, with the exception of the footage shot on Her Majesty's Canadian ship, Montreal in the North Atlantic in January of 2018, when principal photography was already moving forward. The film used enhanced digital imaging technology to 3D render entire real-life battleships, here specifically destroyers. While CGI heavy, there was a focus on getting the technical aspects right in the authenticity of Greyhound and naval warfare. Schneider even went as far as to create an entire website for the cast and crew to browse over as much historical information about naval warfare during World War II that they could handle. Filming ended in late 2018 and the film was cut to a brisk 91-minute runtime. The film was given a PG-13 rating and the film was set to release in May of 2020. Then, Sony announced that the film was delayed indefinitely due to the COVID pandemic, which we know so much about these days. Sony, who was desperate to cash in on as much of their product as possible, decided to put the film on the market for streaming studios to buy. Apple TV Plus jumped at the opportunity and bought the film for $70 million. It was released digitally by the service on July 10, 2020. Apple TV Plus reported the largest watched original programming since their start. Greyhound was released to critical acclaim, enjoying a certified fresh rating of 79% on Rotten Tomatoes as of this recording, with critics praising the film's action sequences and brisk pace, while tearing a large hole into its script, criticizing Hanks for not giving enough in the character department to make us care about the film's action sequences. And while I agree with that sentiment, I believe the character development isn't always necessary for every film experience there is, but as I'll talk about later, it was something this film desperately needed for its artistic expression of World War II. Greyhound stars Tom Hanks as a Navy captain on his first voyage across the Atlantic during World War II. His character, Ernest Krause, commands the USS Keeling, a destroyer-class vessel used to protect the convoy of supply and troop ships traveling to England in the early stages of the United States' involvement in the war, specifically the European theater of war. The film takes place right after Pearl Harbor, and the film makes use of its tension created because we as a spectator know how desperately short the Allies are on supplies, and the ships especially needed in the Atlantic front to help their European allies fight off the Nazi invasion taking place in early 1942. Krauss commands over several destroyers protecting the convoy, and they make their way into the Black Pit, an area of the Atlantic where no air support was able to get to the escorts to protect them from Nazi submarines and destroyers looking to stop supplies from getting to England. They quickly become surrounded by quote-unquote the Wolf Pack, the Nazi submarine group that lives up to their nickname, who begin circling and picking off the ships one by one. As Krauss and his men aboard the Keeling begin to lose ammunition and hope, they look for a way to strategize against their enemy. Greyhound was designed to do one thing: put the spectator into the experience of the soldiers on the destroyers during the Battle of the Atlantic, and Tom Hanks, anchoring the film in a genuine realistic performance, and director Aaron Schneider give us just that. Greyhound features explosive open sea battles, filmed with visceral and kinetic energy that sweeps the camera in and out of the ship's decks, with a highlight cinematography moment being a shot where the camera sweeps up from the battle on the open sea below and up into the dark sky. The lighting and color grading are gorgeous here, making use of the deep blue of the ocean, contrasted to the almost grayed out exterior of the ship, the sky and the men's uniforms. The brief flashes of colors from the tracer rounds and the red glow from the ship's lights at night make for creating a very morbid and grim atmosphere that enhances the suspense and tension of the Nazi submarines lurking below the surface. The action sequences are realistic, and while CGI heavy, are portrayed in a manner that I'm sure most historians and World War II buffs will find acceptable. The script uses authentic naval commands, tactics, and dialogue to immerse the audience into Krauss's world in his mind, quickly giving us all the realistic need to know about naval warfare in short spurts of dialogue to keep the audience up to speed. But a lot of it does come fast and does linger around for not too long, so if you aren't paying close attention, you are bound to miss a lot of key dialogue, explaining what is going on and why the escorts are doing certain tactics. The visual effects impress a lot here, given how much there is. I wasn't particularly noticing any flaws, and I think the film does a lot with the limited budget it has here. You can't realistically portray large-scale naval combat like this these days without a gigantic budget. So, for films like this one, given the circumstances, while I think a less CGI-heavy film would have added more realism, the film does make a case for not needing it, given how impressive the visual effects really are. After that, though, the film really is just a 90-minute experience of naval warfare at its best. And while the film does attempt to diversify and cover topics and even social commentary, it's so brisk and short that it barely adds anything to the story, other than to give Tom Hanks some connection to his men he is commanding. And the film solely focuses on Tom Hanks' Krauss perspectives, which leaving not much room for us to see any standout supporting characters. And while actors like Stephen Graham and Rob Morgan get parts to shine through here, they all get sidelined once the action starts, and when it does, it never stops. And let me not get into the film scene with Elizabeth Shue. Ugh. There's a bare bones approach here to the movie that does well to aid the pace of the film, but it feels like the film's haphazardly approach to its themes and possible commentaries doesn't add to the action of the film. Again, not everything needs to make us care about the characters. Not every film or artistic expression needs to have these elements in it. But when your film is about the experience of certain people and what it was like to be there on the ocean, in the battle with the tracer rounds and the flak and the enemy shooting at you at all angles, it doesn't help when you never get to experience those things with those characters. Where we are just seeing the battle here, the film doesn't give us the time to understand what the characters are feeling. The cliche of red shirts here is appropriate, and while cliches don't have to be criticisms of movies, it's not done well enough here to rise to the level of quality needed to outweigh the cliche factor. The script falters in these moments that other films like Master Commander, Das Boot, U-571, and more recently, the masterful Dunkirk, thrived with doing that could have benefited Greyhound. So, in the end, if you are here for the realistic and visceral experience of naval warfare, you're gonna get it. The action sequences are fantastic in moments, and Tom Hanks does his best to make you care at least about him. The film loses the other experiences that we came here to see, though, and falters in delivering that social commentary that would have aided to that experience as well, because the film does give a slight glimpse at it. But again, the problem here is that it never fully commits to any of its other ideas, or gives enough for that to even matter. What makes for basically a 90-minute battle sequence would have played well on the big screen. Tom Hanks has done well for himself with his World War II work, not just as a producer on series like Band of Brothers and The Pacific, but also as a star like in Saving Private Ryan. And all those works are critically and audience beloved. It's hard to picture this amongst those works, but it fits nicely right in the middle of the pack in his filmography. Script-wise, maybe not so much, but his passion does shine through here. And I feel it will be better served on his next series in the trilogy of works he's doing with Spielberg for HBO involving World War II. The next one being about the air war, so it'll be interesting to contrast that work with Greyhound. Greyhound does have a terrific score by Blake Neely, whose connection to Hanks through the TV miniseries The Pacific makes for a nice touch to the proceedings and does elevate my final grade. I initially was pretty high on this film until I started thinking about it more, and in the end, I decided going against too high on it.
The Wolfpack's haunting us.
U-boat, starboard bound!
So, Greyhound gets a B. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed this review. Go and check out Greyhound for yourself and leave a comment below telling me what you thought about it. Or comment on any of my social media feeds if you can find those. And thanks for watching, everybody, and look forward to my next review, which is going to be another war film, The Outpost, starring Orlando Bloom. And that one was a little bit better than this film, so make sure you look out for that. Thanks for watching, everyone, and make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more film-related content. And get yourself a mug. Go ahead and sit down and watch a Tom Hanks film and enjoy a cup of movie magic today.
Man means nothing to me. It's just a name. But if, if going to Ramel and finding him so he can go home, if that earns me the right to get back to my wife, well, then that's my mission.